The NBA needs its own NXT. It needs a developmental type of brand to take players around the world, put them in the pro leagues whenever they're ready, and potentially call them up and sign them to NBA teams instead of drafting them. Now, the reason why I made this video is because I seen this 4 or 5-star recruit, Trentyn Flowers, who was committed to Kentucky or Louisville. He decommitted to Louisville and he was like, I'm gonna go play for the NBA. I was like, whoa, this is kind of crazy. And then I said, okay, 4 out of the top 5 draft picks in the 2023 draft didn't play in college. Wemby played overseas, Scoot was in the G League Ignite, and Amen and Ausar Thompson were in overtime elite. I feel like the NBA could take a much more hands-on approach with developing talent and scouting, as the NCAA kind of loses its chokehold on producing NBA prospects. Now, I know this might sound crazy, but just hear me out. You might be wondering, bro, what is this NXT you're talking about? Let me explain. NXT is one of the WWE's brands. Yes, that WWE, fake pro wrestling, soap opera stuff, but just hear me out. I already made a WWE video, so niggas should be hit. So NXT is where WWE's newly signed talent that are new to pro wrestling go. You know what I'm saying? They be in the performance center, whether they came from football, gymnastics, collegiate wrestling, whatever. They be in the lab working on their craft and getting a little audience behind them so they'll be ready for another brand like Raw or SmackDown. They also put veterans they signed that had worked in independent wrestling promotions there so they can learn the WWE system, you know. Working for a way bigger company is obviously different, and they be putting people who are already on Raw or SmackDown there sometimes to spice it up, teach some of the young wrestlers, or gain some momentum so they can go back fresh. Now, if you got all that, you might be saying, hold on, the NBA already has all that combined with the G League and the G League Ignite. And the NBA also has overseas camps where they find players. For example, I'm pretty sure that's how Pascal Siakam got scouted in Cameroon. And to that, I say, you are 100% correct. But I want to expand this concept even further. Now let's take a look at another pro wrestling company that does something similar, that being New Japan Pro Wrestling. They got a whole dojo. They call the rookies Young Lions. They put them in basic black trunks, black shoes. They pretty much only do basic moves, and they teach them straight fundamentals. When they feel like the young lions are ready, they send them niggas overseas to companies like TNA or Ring of Honor, where they can develop their characters and identities. And once they feel like they're more evolved and fleshed out, they bring them niggas back to Japan, where they start going crazy. So with that analogy, you might be asking, are you saying you want the NBA teams to train these young players, send them overseas, and bring them back? How practical is that? Overseas comp isn't even nice like that. And to the first part, I say kind of. To the second part, I say the NCAA comp is not on the level of other professional leagues, if we're being 100% honest. Now, I want to combine those 2 previous metaphors to another one that's actually happening with basketball right now. That is what organizations like Real Madrid are doing with their football and basketball players, most notably producing Luka Doncic of the Dallas Mavericks. They scout and bring up these young players, developing them. When they feel like they're nice like that, even under the age of 18, they let them play against grown-ass men. And there's no politics or high school team transferring. No, you got to earn your spot. It's sink or swim. And it ain't all about you dropping 25 points per game. You learn how to maximize every ability on the team to make your team win, whether you're shooting the ISO step back 3 or you're cutting, you're screening, passing the rock around to get the best look. And also, they're not playing in a college or high school system, playing by one coach game plan that's been the same for the past 30 years, regardless of what player you have on your team. They're going to make you play power forward if you're 6'8", even if you have the skills of a point guard. And now to combine all of that and relate it back to the NBA, I'm not exactly sure how this would work logistically, either with the NBA itself doing this or with every single team in the NBA doing this. Let's just say every team in the NBA. So they all make their own academies, right? Scouting out players all over the world with whatever local camps already exist or high schools or whatever. You see that they're nice and you sign them up to 676ers Academy, for example. You got these players, and if they're nice and they're prepared mentally, the GM, coach, staff, family, all prepared, all good to go, you could do one of 2 things. If you made it this far, leave a like and subscribe. It's free. It helps a lot. Thanks. Number 1, you send the nicest young players individually to play for whatever pro team, and you sign them on some type of contract, right? Or number 2, you assemble a team of the nicest players, you put them in some pro league, whether it's here versus like OTE, or it's overseas, and you get the NBL in Australia, or the Spanish League, Euro League, Turkish League, whatever, to scout them so you can sign an agreement, try to get them to face other teams. You know what I'm saying? Maybe you can have them play in the Eurobasket, for example. But when you get these players to do this, you got them sign a contract, which basically says if they declare for the draft and they don't get drafted, the team can then do what they want with the player. So whether that's still having them play in other pro leagues and having them develop more, or having them still in the G League or G League Ignite, or even signing them on that little undrafted player contract or 2-way, so you're calling them up to a team. Now you might be thinking, okay, this creates a monopoly. A contending team could get one of the lottery picks in the draft, or what about some teams just being way richer than other teams? Well, if you declare for the draft and you get drafted, then that's it. The team that had you in the academy doesn't have your draft rights, and the higher you go in the draft, the more you get paid. You see these rich players already in the league trying to get the bag. Imagine someone who hasn't gotten any of that money yet. They're probably going to try and get the most amount of money as soon as possible. So this hypothetical scenario should have little to no effect on the draft, at least on the first round of the draft. It's really so teams can accelerate the development of young players, reduce the insane workload that a system like the AAU puts on players, and find more diamonds in the rough, you know what I mean? So to sum it all up, I feel like NBA teams should have their own NXT academies that can bring up young players, have them face off against each other, and in pro leagues, to have more mature and advanced development with less of the AAU workload in high school and college politics and stuff like that. Then call them up directly to your team. Just a much more hands-on approach that's evolving with the era that we're in today. Let me know in the comments what you think. Obviously, I don't have any of the logistical answers of if this is possible, practical, if any of the leagues, teams, or players would even agree to any of this. So just let me know any of your theories for the evolution of drafting and player development. You know what I'm saying? Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And yeah.